folks, it is time to make soap. I'm gonna make jewelweed soap. So first thing I done about a month ago, I took jewelweed and I chopped it up and put it in water and avocado oil. This was steeping in my oil, a little bit of oil and some water. And so that's steeped really good. I think, 3 or 4 weeks. Mine's been back there probably a good month at least. I'm fixing to take those. I'll add the rest of my water and oil. I still have lots of calendula flour, so I'm going to add a little bit of that in there. That's good for your skin. So we'll add a little bit of that in there with the jewelweed. The jewelweed is good for poison ivy, poison oak, any itchy, scratchy stuff you get in the summertime. And I like to have this soap on hand to wash up after I've been in the weeds. If I've been in the woods or pulling weeds or anything, I like to come in and wash up with this soap. But I haven't had any in a while, so it's time to make some more. So I got all my supplies together. I got my measuring cup, my pan ready to heat up my oil, my scales, and my lye. I've got my hand mixer and my soap molds. So the first thing I'm gonna do is get my oil ready, and I'll have to add more oil because this recipe calls for 20 ounces of oils. You can mix that up and use coconut oil, lard, avocado oil, olive oil, whatever oils you have on hand. I keep a lot of coconut oil and avocado oil on hand, so I'm going to use my avocado oil, and then I'll probably add coconut oil to make up the rest of that. And I will take it over here and heat it up to about 120. I'm just squeezing that down in there to be sure I get all that oil out of there. So that was 1 cup or 8 ounces. So I need to add another cup and 4 ounces of my coconut oil. Okay, so here's my water. I'm going to strain out my water from my jewelweed here. I need 8.5 ounces of water. Okay, so there's my 8 ounces. And then I need 1/2 ounce. There we go. There's 8.5 ounces of water. Now we're going to add 3 ounces of lye. And you want to mix the lye into the water, not the water into the lye. Now for that, I'm going to put on my gloves. Some of them say wear long sleeves, but I am just not as scared of it as I used to be, because I watched Tara at Living on a Dime make soap, and she took and rubbed it on her skin just to show you that it's not that scary. You just wash it off, or use, some say use a little vinegar to rinse it off, will stabilize it, but she just washed it off. I just don't think it's as big of a deal unless you got it on you and left it on you, or let it splash in your eye. And since I wear glasses, I'm not too worried about that. So I just do this. I just put on my gloves, pull them up good as far as I can, and add my lye in here. I'm fixing to measure out my lye and add that. And then it's going to get really hot. And we're going to wait until that cools down to 120, so that you can get your mixture about 120 and your oil about 120. Now the lye first is going to heat up to like 200 or more. So to measure out my lye, I'm going to take my scale, and you put on your container to see how much that weighs. That is 4.6. So to get my 3 ounces, I need that to be 7.6. So I'm going to take and measure this out and be very careful not to spill it everywhere. I just spilt a little on my scale, so I had to wipe that off good in a minute. I'll need this to get to 7.6. Oh, there we go. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the lid right back on this lye. Not leave that open so it doesn't get anywhere else. And then you're going to take and I'm going to get this cleaned off right away, right down the sink. Well, 4 little pieces on my counter. I'm going to go ahead and get those all wiped up. Back in the sink. Alright. Okay, here we go. We are going to add this slowly and stirring. So you won't be able to hear me as good because I turned on the vent to suck this. There's going to be a little bit of fumes. And you don't want to breathe those fumes. So I kind of hold my head back here. You could use a face mask if you wanted to. I don't. I just hold my head back good, and if I do start smelling any fumes, I will really hold my head back further or get away from it for a second. Now it kind of sticks to the bottom. That's happened every time I've done this. But you want to just keep stirring that good. And that's going to get really, really hot. Up to like 250 or something like that. And then you're going to have to wait and let it cool down. Alright, there we go. I'm going to put this straight into my sink and get that washed up. Just a second. Okay, just set that on this hot pan. It's starting to get really hot. Even the top of the bowl is starting to get hot. I do a deeper bowl so that I don't splash. Plus, I stir slowly. Just make sure you don't splash that everywhere, and you should be fine. If you was to splash that or spill it on your counter and not get it wiped up, it might damage your counter. I always do wipe up immediately and clean up good as soon as I do this. I can smell those fumes a little, so I'm going to step back a minute and let those fumes maybe suck out over there under that vent. So what I'm doing here is I'm checking that to check that temperature and see how much it's cooled down. It is still at almost 150, so we got to wait just a little longer. So I'll check this again in a little bit and see how it is. Since I turned it off, it may be cooling down too much. I may need to turn that back on just a little. But either way, we want to get these both about the same temperature real close. While I'm waiting for that to cool, I am getting my calendula out that I want to use. This bag that I bought had these big tops in it, and I don't want to use those in this. So they had these big whole flower tops in them. So I'm picking those out, so I just have the little flower petals. Okay, so our temperatures are about the same. This is still a little warmer, but it's close. So we're going to go ahead and start mixing this in. Slowly. I'm going to get this in here. Start mixing that good. I'm going to set that over there so I can clean that up in a little bit. And I'm mixing this around. And then we're going to take it over to the sink and turn on the hand blender in it in just a minute. I just used a disposable knife this time. A lot of things have a chemical reaction with aluminum, And so I also got rid of all of my aluminum pans a while back, because I have read and heard that it is not good for you, that aluminum heated up is not good for you. So I switched over to stainless steel and cast iron probably a year or so ago. So this is a stainless steel pan. And this is when you really want to be careful and not let that splash. That's one reason I always do it in my sink, and I usually try to do it with a deeper pan so that I don't splash, and I try to go pretty easy with it so I don't splash. So, you know, this is where you take precaution. Try not to let it splash. You do have on your gloves. Some people wear long sleeves and face masks and eyewear, and I just don't think it's that serious unless I knew I was going to be sloppy maybe. But I try to be real careful and not splash it and wipe it up as quickly as I can. I use water. I've just been washing mine off if I did splash it, which hasn't happened much because I've been very careful. So we are thickening up here and getting pretty close to trace. Actually, I think it is trace. I said pretty close, and then I stopped for a minute and it got there. So I'm going to go ahead and add stuff. I decided to add a little peppermint oil to make it smell good. And I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of that in there, and then put my calendula flowers in there. A little bit. Mix that around a little bit. Don't know that I even need to turn that on anymore. I just need to mix it. Turn it on again in a minute. Let's just mix those in, and then I'll just turn that on long enough to mix that oil in good. So I'm going to turn this on just enough to get that mixed good, because it's at trace. It's very thick. It's trace. It got there quick on me at the end. Now you still don't want to get this on you. This still has active, I need my gloves on. I'm going to put this over here in the bowl where I can clean that up in a minute. I'm going to get my gloves back on, because you still don't want to get this on you right now at this point. I'm going to take that same little knife I used to help me get this in here. Yeah, it ended up getting a little thick. It went a little beyond trace on me, but it's fine. I would just have to smooth that in there good. And the recipe I showed is enough to make the...
Can't talk to us while you do that? Where'd this dog come from?
Here's what we ended up with. It didn't make 12. I got interrupted, and somebody come to the door. I didn't get it all poured in, and by the time I got back in here, the other was kind of stuck in the pan, too much to pour in. So lesson here is make sure you're not going to get interrupted while you're pouring. These need to sit in the mold for about 24 hours, and then you can pop them out of there and set them on something to set to saponify and set up for 30 days, and then they'll be ready to use. Give us a thumbs up, a comment, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.